على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي. ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. ربي زدني علما. ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are going to talk about ayah number 61, 62, and 63 of Surah Ali Imran today. So we will start with the recitation and the word by word meaning. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
فمن حاجك فيه من بعد ما جاءك من العلم فقل تعالوا ندع أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين.
Faman, then whoever, hajjaka, ha, jim and jim, like the same root as the word hajj. You know, what are we doing in hajj? We are fighting with ourselves. We're fighting with our own nafs, and like what happens in hajj is a constant. It's a constant striving for sabr, right? Because you can imagine there are thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people in a small city for a certain period of time. So there's going to be logistics issues. There are going to be things happening. There's going to be crowds. There are going to be the upsets, like your bus didn't arrive on time, or this didn't happen in time, or you're short on the water, you're short on food supplies, you're short on things. There's heat. There is a lot of discomfort and everything as well. So and like the shared washrooms, there this and that. So what you're doing, you're typically fighting with yourself. So the word has a connotation of fighting. Hajjaka. So who argues with you? So here it is used in the sense of the one, then whoever argues with you. And this is continuing from the previous ayah when the delegation from Najran had come to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was talking to them about the story of Isa alayhi salam and Maryam salamun alayha and Zakaria alayhi salam, and telling them the truth about Isa alayhi salam. And then after telling them, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a few ayat that in which he told addressed the Prophet ﷺ, and then now he's being told about and the Prophet ﷺ is being addressed, and then being told about the people, and if this is what their reaction is going to be, right? So faman, then whoever out of this people, hajjaka, argues with you, ka, you referring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fihi, in it, in this matter, meaning in this matter of Isa alayhi salam, and the reality of his status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Min ba'di, after, from after, ma ja'aka, what, ja'aka, ja'a is to came, and ka, to you. So ma ja'aka, came to you, min al-ilmi, of, al-ilm is the knowledge. So al-ilm, ilm is knowledge, and al-ilm is the true knowledge, and it is used in the reference to the true knowledge that is revealed through the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the opposite of al-ilm is dhann. Dhann is conjecture, something that people make up. So min al-ilmi, after what has come to you of the knowledge, fakul, then say. So the Prophet ﷺ is being addressed and said, then say, if they argue with you about this, then say ta'alaw. Ta'alaw, to come, right? It comes from ayn, lam, and waw, meaning to call somebody for some higher purpose. So you're calling somebody to come, and then there is a purpose behind it, and there's a higher purpose behind it. It's some higher need that you're calling them for. Come, ta'alaw, nad'u, da and ayn is like from like the same way like we say dua, right? So to call, and when we make dua, we call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But nida is typically about calling somebody. So nad'u, let us call, abna, is plural of bani. Bani is a child, and abna'ana, sons, and na is for us, so our sons. So let us call our sons wa abna'akum, and your sons, all of your sons, wa nisa'ana. Nisa'a is women, so wa is and. Nisa'ana, na for our. So and our women, wa nisa'akum, and all of your women, wa anfusana, and our own selves, wa anfusakum, and your own selves, thumma, then. And why are we calling everybody? What purpose? What is the higher purpose for calling everybody? Thumma, then. Nabtahil. Nabtahil, then let us pray humbly. And we'll go in the detail of this word, um, baha and la, a little later. Fanajal, and then what we will do is we will invoke la'natullahi, the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alal kadibin, on the liar. So whoever is the liar amongst us, we will invoke Allah's curse on that person. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, then whoever argues with you about it after this knowledge has come to you, then say, come, let us call our sons and your sons, our women and your women, ourselves and yourselves. Then supplicate earnestly together and invoke the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the liars among us. Whoever's liar among us, let us all call the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on whoever is the liar. And then the next ayah, ayah number 62.
إن هذا لهو القصص الحق وما من إله إلا إن الله لهو العزيز الحكيم.
Inna, indeed, definitely, certainly, there is no doubt that hada, this, lahua, surely it is. This is lam taqid, and this lam of taqid meaning the lam of emphasis. So in, let's say we were the equivalent of it would be if you were writing like a text in or a letter or something on a Word document, and you have something written, and what you would do is you would make it bold, you will underline, you will increase the font size of it, meaning you will emphasize on this a lot, right? So certain part of the sentence or something, you will highlight it, you'll make it more, or you'll use a highlighter to make it. So you're emphasizing it in different ways, right? So this is what this lam e taqid does. This lam of it's called literally the lam of emphasis. So lahua, then surely it is, al qasasu, the narration, al haq, which is true, which is al haq, which is the truth. Wama, and there is no min ilahin, of God, illallah, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa inna Allah, and definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lahua, surely he is, and there are two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned here, al aziz, the almighty, and al hakim, the all wise. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, indeed this is the true narration, and there is no deity except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the mighty, exalted in might, and he is the wise, the hakim. And then ayah number 63.
فإن تولوا فإن الله عليم بالمفسدين.
For in, and if, then if, tawallaw, they turn back. For inna Allah, then indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is alimun, he is all knowing of what? Bil mufsidin, of those who do fasad. And fasad, we talked before, fasad is like when a fruit is there's a fruit but that's getting rotten from inside, right? And that keeps getting rotten and rotten from inside, and then what happens is that rottenness, that thing, it starts to ooze out now, and that's the fasad, right? The meaning, the so literally that's what that means. The fasad, it's like starting to come out now. The corruption that is inside is starting to come out, and the people who do fasad, and it's used in that sense because they have this evil intentions or wrong in their hearts or something, but now it's starting to show up, it's starting to corrupt the society, it's starting to create a smell around, it's starting to bring like these like these if you imagine a fruit or something, it will start to get these fruit flies and things, and it will start to pollute the environment, it will start to not just impact itself now, it's starting to, all the other fruits around it will start to go bad as well. If you keep that fruit, like it's a basket of apples and one apple is going bad, and it started to even ooze out the thing, and if you keep it, it will start to impact the other apples too, right? So that's fasad. Fasad is the kind of corruption that's starting to show up, and that's starting to corrupt the society, that's starting to make an impact on other people around as well. So this is saying, and if they turn back, then indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knowing of those who do fasad, who are the corruptors. So we'll talk in a little bit more detail, inshallah. So ayah number 61, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, if someone argues with you, a prophet, over this after the knowledge that has come to you, say to him, come, let us call our sons and your sons, our women and your women, ourselves and yourselves, and then let us pray and invoke the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the liars. So first of all, we talked about the knowledge and the knowledge about, and the knowledge here, al-ilm, is the knowledge that the Prophet ﷺ has received through revelation. And by extension, all of us are receiving through revelation. Like these, all these details about Maryam and Zakaria and Isa alayhi salam, and all of these, the family of Ali Imran, um, the family of Imran, the Ali Imran, we could not have known all of these details. This happened thousands upon thousands of years ago, and all the details have been changed by people. So we wouldn't have known. And the real texts or whatever, they were always kept in very, like, few people always had access to it. Not everybody had access to it. So things have been changed over a period of time. And in fact, every year now, a new edition of like if you go to learn Bible from somebody, for example, they will say, okay, what year's edition are you learning from, right? So they have editions, and of like every year a new edition's released, and then you teach from that edition. So they have, so it's not like how we study the Quran. Okay, it's the Quran. Wherever you go and study, you might have schools of thought, you might have anything else, but the Quran is the Quran. There is no change in the Quran wherever you go around the world, right? And but for these people, it's changing, right? So the true knowledge that has come to you through to us through the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and the Prophet ﷺ is being told, and after this delegation from Najran had come, right, and the Prophet ﷺ had been talking to them and everything, he had shown them, he had talked to them about the reality of Isa alayhi salam, he had shown them, and they also had some background because they were people of knowledge. These were not just the people who had come from Najran, these were just not like normal day-to-day Christians or thing. Here, people of the book meant that these people were the clergy. These were the religious priests and those people who were people of knowledge of their group of people. So they had a lot of knowledge. They knew that a final prophet's going to come. They knew the signs of the final prophet. They knew the message of the what is the key message of Isa alayhi salam. What are the commandments of and what is the message that all the prophets have come with. So they knew things. It was not like he was not talking to people who had no background or were just day to day, who just believe something but they don't have much of a background. So the Prophet ﷺ had been talking to them and telling them about all of these things, and they had recognized things, right? And they had understood these things. Uh, so all this knowledge had come about what is the truth of Isa alayhi salam, what is happening and everything, right? And then if they still argue with you, right? So what happens is when we present, and that's true even today, when we present haqq to somebody in front of somebody, and if there is a difference of opinion which is based on some rational or logical premise, something's going on, and there is some rational discrepancy or some difference of opinion, whatever disagreement is there, usually it can be resolved by reasoning and argument. Like you give the dalil, you tell them, okay, like no, this is because of this is how this is and everything, and you give strong solid dalil and strong solid evidences and everything, then usually those matters are resolved because it's just about some rational or logical thing that the person doesn't know, or the person has not understood it like that, and you share with them another perspective or tell them everything and they understand, alhamdulillah, and then it gets over. But after all arguments and after a thorough discussion, if the opponent or the person is stubborn and they persist out of just arrogance, just plain arrogance, and a wrong sense of prestige, like they're like, like they just like, it is, this is what I have said and I'm not going to go back on my word. This is like, this is like, why should I bow down or why should I listen to somebody else, right? And it's even if that they understand this is the truth, but they wouldn't listen because it's coming from somebody else and it's not their opinion. It's like even today we see a lot of people, even though their opinion or something that they're engaged in is like doesn't make sense and everything, but they're not ready to let it go. Why? Because a lot of it is not rational. A lot of it is more about what is in the heart. It's not the mind, it's in the heart. Like there's arrogance, there's a sense of prestige. Like whatever they're doing is giving them a sense of prestige, a sense of I am better than the others because of blah 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 blah. And when they don't want to let go of this feeling that so like like people say there's a difference between self-confidence and pride, and there's a very thin line between self-confidence and arrogance. Self-confidence is thinking that okay, this is something and I can do this. Like if Allah helps me, I can do this. I have the capability. Allah's given me the capability. I can do this. And what is arrogance? Arrogance becomes only I can do this. Like like nobody else can do this. I'm the only one who. So that's when people have this sense of prestige, when people have this sense of incorrect sense of prestige and a sense of arrogance, and something's feeding that arrogance, then it's very hard for them to let go of that thing, even though it doesn't make any sense at all, right? Even though the truth is as clear as the sun which is shining overhead, then they're still not ready to listen. They're still not ready to understand, and they're still arguing, and they're still, like they're still ready to, the dispute is get increasing and increasing and increasing, and then this was the case that was happening at that time, and the Prophet ﷺ was then told by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that the only way to settle the argument now once and for all is uh, mabahala, right? That we're just coming to mabahala and call them to that, right? So what did the Prophet ﷺ call them to? Right here, we say um, nabtahil. Right. So, what is mubahala? Muhabahala. So let's just look at a little bit into this word first of all. Bahala from ba, ha, and lam. So when a she camel, what happens is that won't when a she camel won't give milk, and there is some skin or something blocking the udders, and it's finally removed, and the udders are exposed, and the milk starts flowing, then this camel is called a bahila. Okay. Also, when a woman who does not have in Arabic, when a woman who does not have a protection from a man, a father or a brother or a husband, and anyone can attack her, like she's exposed, so she's scared, she's vulnerable, she's exposed, she's in certain situation in which she's vulnerable and exposed and she's scared, then she's called a bahila, right? So the word bahila or ibtihal has a lot to do with vulnerability and exposing a weakness. So when we do ibtihal, ibtihal means what it means to come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed and weak, to come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our all of our vulnerability and exposing our weaknesses to him, and to call upon him with that humility, with a lot of humility, right? So and it comes in the meaning of, when it comes in the meaning of mubahala, it is to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like stop and again and repeatedly call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a lot of humility, supplicating and beseeching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a lot of humility. And this also carries a meaning of abandonment, and it's used for um, in a Sharia terms, in the Sharia terminology. So that's the literal terminology of Baha and Lam. In the Sharia terminology, in the Islamic Sharia, it also carries a meaning of abandonment. So it's used for mutual cursing. And this ayah, because of that, this ayah number 61 of Surah Al Imran is called Ayate Mubahila. Mubahala. Okay. So what are we saying then is that you're exposing yourself in a way that you're putting yourself open to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So you're saying it's like saying that you're saying like, yeah Allah, if I'm wrong, punish me. Okay. And there are only two reasons why somebody can say this. For somebody to say, yeah Allah, if I'm wrong, punish me, to like ask for punishment upon yourself, to ask from lanat upon yourself, is that either they're fully convinced that they're right. Why would somebody say that when they're fully 100% convinced that they are in the right? Then that's when they can say with confidence, yeah Allah, if I'm wrong, punish me, meaning I'm so sure I'm right that I'm willing to say that, right? Or the other reason why somebody could say that is because they don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, astaghfirullah, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sami, or He listens. And that kind of a person could also um, say a thing like that, that yeah Allah, if I'm wrong, punish me. But somebody who believes will only say this when they are 100% convinced, right? So this one thing is, before we go ahead, this mubahala was done by the Prophet ﷺ and done only once in the whole seerah, right? And this is not just something that we can do lightly. Like any of us cannot just like, okay, we read this ayah in the Quran, and I spoke to my Christian friend or my other friend about like who's not believing, and I gave them all the dalil. I talked to them about this and this, and then okay, they're not listening and everything, and after that they're still arguing. So let us do mubahala. No, 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 no. This is not. This was very specific, and this was done. It was these people had come. These people were religious clergy of that time, and they had come to meet a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who gets direct wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet ﷺ did it when he got wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do this. None of us is getting wahi anymore, right? So the Prophet ﷺ got wahi to do this, and it was in one, he never repeated it again as well. He just did it one time, right? So when an argument is not solved between two groups of people based on reasonings, and then they like when in their effort to prove the godhood of Jesus, like they were trying to prove that Isa alayhi salam's divine, astaghfirullah, they kept, or the son of God, astaghfirullah, so they kept wanting to prove that, and they were debating and debating and debating. And even though the Prophet ﷺ has given them all the truth, and they've understood it, the main point is they have understood it as well, because they are the religious clergy. They understand the references, and they understand everything, that how could the Prophet ﷺ know of the truth that they have not even told to their own people. Like they have a part of those truths is like it has not is not common knowledge, and who will tell him? And there are other signs that they're getting that this is the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're still, even though they've understood, because of their arrogance, they're still debating. They're still debating, and they're debating to the extreme of dispute now, right? Then this ayah of mubahala was revealed, and the Prophet ﷺ told them, okay, let's call everyone, like it's and so and this mubahala, when this is done, actually the lana of Allah. And what is the lana of Allah? Lanat, we say in other languages too, lanat is means to lock someone or something, right? Then, and it means moving someone far away from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So, and sometimes in our languages, we in Urdu and in other languages, sometimes we say this word very lightly, like lana to tum par, like that. We say this word very lightly to, like, the mothers will say to the children, or something else. But this is a very strong word. This is a very strong curse on somebody. So only if we understand the meaning, we would never use this word, even for our enemies, let alone for the people that we love, right? And just while scolding them or something. Though, so lanat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means to move someone away from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does moving away from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means? Meaning being close to anybody who's away from the rahmah, meaning they're close to the divine punishment, they're close to divine wrath. And what we are saying in mubahala is that wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on the one who is lying, right? Whoever's lying out of us, may the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon them, right? So it's a religious, it's like a kind of an exercise done. So the Prophet ﷺ had said, okay, you call everybody from your families, and we'll call everybody from our families. And the Prophet ﷺ had called Ali radiallahu anhu and his daughter Fatima and Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhuma. He called all of them. And what does it do to call all of them? It's like inclusion of somebody's family and dear ones. This actually immensely increases the seriousness of the challenge. It's like a challenge being given, and it increases the seriousness, because um, this shows that the Prophet ﷺ was fully convinced and certain about the righteousness of his mission, because no one would knowingly dare to curse his own family or his own wife, his own children, and his own near and dear ones. No one would knowingly dare to do that, because once you do this mubahala, the lanat of Allah actually comes after that, right? And it's like there is actually punishment that comes after that, because you're calling upon it, literally. Like, may Allah Ta'ala forgive us, may Allah Ta'ala protect us from ever being of those people, or even to have to associate with those people who have lana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what was the background of this? After Fatah Makkah, after the Makkah has been conquered and everything, after returning to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ sent message of Islam to Najran. And what does Najran? Najran was a small town of Christians at that time, and now it is a part of Saudi Arabia itself. And three choices were given to them: either accept Islam and become Muslims, or give jizya. And what is jizya? Jizya is when a non-Muslim lives in a Muslim state and they pay a special amount, you can say as a special kind of a tax that they pay to the government, right? A Muslim who's living in a Muslim state pays zakat, right? But a non-Muslim pays jizya. When they are living under a Muslim establishment, a Muslim khilafah. Right now, as we know, there is no Muslim khilafah anywhere in the world. There are countries, there are governments that are sympathetic towards Islam, that is mostly Muslim countries, and they try to follow something, but they're not, they don't have Islamic Sharia and things like that. So, but anyway, so just to understand, a non-Muslim would pay a jizya to the government, or the third option that you have is ready to fight, be ready to fight, and everything. And in return of this message, a group of 60 Christians came to Medina, and these 60 Christians that came to Medina, they came with a great pomp and show, right? They were very organized. They had a leader, they had a sayyid, they had spiritual leaders, and it was not just average Christians or Jews, rather people of the book. They were the religious clergy and everything, and they had like lot of like the most expensive clothes, and the caravan was like and you if we think of the condition of the Sahabas at that time, like many of them are not having more than one meal a day, and that meal is also very humble. And so it's not like they are very very rich or everything. It's a very very humble life, and for them to all of a sudden see this huge, like this lot of very organized, and also very lot of pomp and show. And the Sahaba say that after this delegation, no delegation ever came to Medina with this much pomp and show ever. So this was like, so everybody was like very, they had this uh, air around them. And even today we see that the Christians in general, they are, alhamdulillah, they are, and we should appreciate the good where we see the good, that they're very organized people. They're generally very organized people, and even in their ceremonies and things, when they see that they'll have a certain decorum, there are certain thing to do, and there's a lot of pomp and show associated as well. Like there's a lot of like grandiose associated with their if you look at the ceremonies of the Pope and the things that happen in the Rome, there's a lot of um, lights and a lot of like the clothes are a certain way, everything's very organized and everything. They have um, that's a big deal, and they do that, they carry that thing like that, right? So, and when they came, it was when they came to the Prophet to meet the Prophet Sallallahu, it was a time for their prayer. And with the permission of the Prophet Sallallahu, they prayed in their own way and in their own direction, but inside the Masjid in Nabi. So that's again one of those things that the Prophet ﷺ allowed them to pray inside Masjid in Nabi in their own way. It's like to be a good host. Like, and also, subhanAllah, we learned so much that the Prophet ﷺ was so tolerant. And, at the same time, not influenced by the pomp and show, but also um, accommodating in a lot of things. And a lot of times, we as Muslims are not that accommodating for other people, right? Also, that power and position sometimes become fitna for people, right? So like these when these people, after they've prayed and everything, then with a lot of respect, with a lot of dignity, the things of Islam were explained to them. They were called to Islam, they were given dawah, and the right things were explained to them properly, that okay, you now accept Islam, and they understood everything. But now the problem is how to accept. Because if they accept, first of all, if these 60 accept, then what would be their fate when they go back? Like, how would their people treat them when they go back? Right? And also, they were not ready to leave their power, their position, their ego, etc. And if we look at ourselves in the mirror today, um, may Allah protect, A'udhu Billah, and but this is a reality of a lot of the Muslim world today as well. That the same things, the power, position, ego, the pomp and show, these things, even today for many Muslims, these things are what become a barrier in the way of the deen, right? Because power and position become fitna, right? And a mu'min, a true mu'min, a believer understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-mu'izz, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who owns all honor and respect, and all respect comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we are influenced a lot by the power, position, ego, brand names, and how we are, like how much glamour we have, and how much in the worldly sense, how much wealth we have, how many sons we have, how many things we own, and how many houses we own, and how many what brands of cars we own. Like there's no end to this. Like when we're so caught up in these things, and like how many people follow us and stuff like that, then these things stop us. These things become a barrier on the way of coming to the truth, because then you get attached to it. You're not ready to leave it, because to come to the truth, you'll have to leave this comfort zone. And then people have become so comfortable that they don't want to leave it. That was the fitna for them at that time, and that is also a fitna for us today, right? And so alhamdulillah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept our like he's covered us. He's covered our faults. May Allah ta'ala continue to cover our faults, and protect our dignity and guide us to the truth, right? So when these people were hesitating to accept the truth, after even after they recognized that this truth, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them through this ayah that no problem. You don't agree to this, you don't understand this, okay. Do you really believe in what you're saying? Do you actually think that that what you're saying is truth? Do you really believe in your hearts what you're saying is the true thing or not? And we can find out, there's a way to find out if Islam and this Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is true or not. If you consider your stand about Christ as right, and that of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as wrong, then accept this challenge of mubahala, like in which the curses they will come together, they will all together invoke the curses of Allah to fall on the heads of the liar. Whoever's lying, the curse falls on them, right? And then if you're really confident, then you will come and do it, no problem. You're truthful, right? So come and let's do it, right? So and then when the Prophet ﷺ told them this, they said, okay, we will consult with each other and we'll get back to you. And a date was decided, okay, they will come. And the Prophet ﷺ came with Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein, like his family members, right? But their religious people, when they got together and they were consulting with each other and everything, who understood everything, they advised them not to participate in the exercise, because they said that if this happens, then this valley will like rain fire on you, and you will die. I think because one of them, Surahbil, uh, who was one of their religious chiefs, said, look, you already know that he's a prophet of Allah, and getting into mubahala with a prophet means death and destruction for us, right? So find out some other way to get out of this fix, right? And he said, I think the best option for us is to opt for a truce as advised by the Prophet. That is, we will take the option out of the three options that he gave us, which is the jizya. We're not ready to accept Islam, obviously, because they were not ready to give up their things. They don't want to fight because they know he's a prophet. They don't want to fight him, and they don't want to go into mubahala. So the option that they have is, they said, okay, let's take a truce. Let's not and they did not dare to accept this challenge, right? So they decided to accept the second condition and move on, and they did not come to the ground at all, although the Muslims were ready. And this also shows that from the Prophet ﷺ side, he was fully convinced of his mission, yet they were debating and arguing about it, and they were very vocal in their argument and everything. Yet, even though they were making all these arguments, in their heart of hearts, they were not convinced themselves about their stand, right? So that kind of showed that, right? And then they said, okay, we need to give jizya. We are ready to give jizya and everything. So they said, okay, you know what? Why don't you send with us somebody, because that's a lot of money now. That it's a large amount that needs to be collected, because these people are really, really rich. So the jizya has to be calculated based on whatever their financial standing is. So it's going to be a large amount of money. So they said to the Prophet ﷺ that okay, to send somebody among who's trustworthy, who's the Amin of your ummah, who's the one who upholds the contracts, and who's like who keeps the amanat, who keeps the word, and who's very honest and trustworthy and everything. So send such a person from yourselves, and who's rich. Meaning, why are they wanting a rich person? Because then he doesn't want the riches from himself. He's already rich. So we want a person who's rich and who's honorable, who's honest, who's trustworthy, and who's the Amin of your ummah. And send such a person with us. And the Prophet ﷺ then said that okay, he chose, and he said, I will send Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu, and from the Sahabas, that and this is when he got the title, this Sahabi, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anhu, he got the title of Amin of our Ummah. He's called the Amin of our Ummah in Sahabas. And the and this incident, one side note about this is that Umar radiallahu anhu, at that later on, he confesses that this was the time when the Prophet said that he's going to choose the Amin of our Ummah to go, that Umar radiallahu anhu, he was wishing that he would get picked up and get this title of Amin of the Ummah, because it was such a big testimony coming from the Prophet ﷺ that this is the Amin of our Ummah. So Umar radiallahu anhu really wanted to be that person, and he later confesses that I was like, I was really wanting that I really wished I could be that person, and the Prophet ﷺ chose Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, and he got that title. And one thing here is that, subhanallah, for each one of us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala picks, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made each one of us believers, and He's given each one of us unique paths to serve Him, right? And so one person might be really good in charity, they might rich and they might be doing so much charity, and another person might not have so much money, but they might have they might have some knowledge to share with people, or somebody else might not have a lot of knowledge, or a lot of money as well, but what they're doing, they serve people a lot. Maybe they go to the events and they volunteer to clean up the masajid, or they do volunteer to like just stand and give the flyers, or they volunteer on, some person might just be on a like literally on the sidelines and doing something that people don't even consider something done. But if they have a class, and if we try to hide our good deeds and we try to do things like that, but Allah acknowledges every little thing. So one of our teachers, they say that, if you imagine a wheel or a whole car, or a vehicle, a very high-end vehicle, and then all of us are like different parts of it, then every part is important and every part has a different role to play. And we don't need to feel like, okay, just because I'm not doing A, B, C, D, E, that other people are doing, that what I'm doing is that I need to just do what other people are doing. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open different doors for each of us, and each of us are our own person. Each of us, like even in the Sahabas, they were all different kinds of Sahaba. Some was very brave, some were very charitable, some were like very strong, some were very, very kind. Some were like, so if we look at the life of the Sahabas, each one of them had different quality. And same goes for all of us too. Allah Ta'ala will, so we don't need to, when we're thinking of ourselves, we don't need to compare ourselves to anybody. We take inspiration from other people, yes, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored each one of us individually in our own way, and He honors each one of us. And we hide our good deeds, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring them out as well. He will bring them out. Like for Abu Ubaidah, he was a very trustworthy person, and he probably was doing some things that in private that people didn't know about, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought it out as him being the Amin of Ummah, that like his quality was shown in public, although he was not looking for it to be shown, but it got shown. And subhanallah, another thing that he did was, Abu Ubaidah, when he stood up and he said to the people, to the delegation that had come, this, I'm not coming with you, this is the Prophet, he is the Amin, so you deal with him, like and it's just like and later on, whatever happened, like they however it was arranged, whatever was done, whether he went or did not go, but um it depends on what Prophet ﷺ told him. But the thing is that how much they loved the Prophet ﷺ, and they once one thing is their qualities got, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed their qualities even in this world to people, and another thing is they were, how loyal they were to the Prophet ﷺ, and how much love and how much respect they had. Like in front of the Prophet ﷺ, you're asking me to come, like he's the Amin, right? And we all follow him and everything. So that was just a side note on this. Also, regarding the mubahala, a lot of times some people say that just like this happened between Muslims and non-Muslims, some people say today that, you know what, we should do this between the different sects of Islam today, and then we should just like figure out once and for all which way is correct, because there's some sects, some different groups, which have totally different opinions about some things, and they're like, only one can be correct because they're totally opposing views. There's not like gray area or something. So what do we do in that sense? And some people say that, but the reality is no, we don't do that. Why do we not do that? Because a Muslim's heart should be tender and soft and welcoming and kind for another Muslim, even if we have differences of opinion, even if we have major differences of opinion. We should want the best for the other person. We should want good for, whether we are Shia, whether we are Sunni, whether we are anything else that we call ourselves. When somebody calls themselves a Muslim, I don't have to follow their way if I don't agree with their way. But I don't wish bad for them. I don't wish, like, lana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a big deal. Like, I don't wish that upon myself or upon anybody else. For Muslims, like the Prophet ﷺ told us, the Muslims are like one body. Like, when one part hurts, like for example, if my hand is hurting, if somebody gets like a fracture in their hand or something, their whole body is uncomfortable until it heals. It's not just the hand that is suffering, it's the whole body that suffers for it. So if one part of the body is hurt, the whole body suffers. So similarly for Muslims, when some Muslims suffering, no matter what sect or what stand or what thing they belong to, then all of us should feel the pain and want them to get out of that pain. We should not want, just because we don't agree on some things, to have some hardship come on them, and you know what, just to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. No, first of all, ask Allah, Ya Allah, whoever's right, if I'm in the wrong, show me the right thing. If they are in the wrong, then show them the right thing, right? So we want good for them. As a believer is the one who wants for his brother what he wants for himself. I want guidance for myself, I want guidance for my brothers and sisters too, right? And rather than this, we should not like go ahead and start just because somebody is on the wrong, and we understand they're in the wrong, and we feel that we know, we have evidence, we know that we're in the right and somebody's on the wrong, that we just start doing lanat and these things like that and bad duas and things like that. Rather, we should make dua for their hidayah. And also remember that when we make dua for other people, angels say Ameen for us as well, right? So when we make dua for other people, we have to consider what duas are we making, because we want those duas for ourselves as well. So pray for the guide, pray for good duas for people. And if there is somebody who has hurt us a lot, somebody who's doing really mean things and everything, and we really can't bring ourselves to make good duas for them, then don't do anything. Then don't. That's the best policy. Although if we are being oppressed by somebody, it is allowed to, if somebody's like actually oppressing us, not just a difference of opinion, somebody's actually oppressing us, we can complain to Allah about them, and we can ask for retribution from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is the higher level to just let it go. So just be like, and again, every situation is different, but this is, we're talking in the general terms, right? And also, some people spread a lot of fitna based on this ayah, saying that the Prophet ﷺ only called Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein. So this means that only they are the family. And Fatima radiallahu anha was from Ahl Bayt, and he did not call his other wives or other daughters and everything. And one thing is, Ahle Bayt, when they say that the family of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's the big division between the two groups, of the two major groups of Muslims, the Shia and the Sunni, is that Ahle Bayt, they consider, the Sunnis consider all the wives of the Prophet ﷺ and the children of the Prophet ﷺ as the people of the household of the Prophet ﷺ. But the Shias, what they consider is only Fatima, Ali, and Hassan Hussein as the Ahl Bayt, but they don't consider the wives of the Prophet ﷺ as the family, as the as the people of his family and everything, right? And we see it in some cultures too, right? Today, like in, and we can see where the roots of these things might be coming from, because in some cultures, no matter how many years have passed, a daughter-in-law is always considered like not a part of the family, right? And in many of our societies, may Allah Ta'ala forgive us, and that because they're from different families and everything, so they're not. And also another thing is regarding other daughters of his time. If we look at the time period of this, when is this happening, then we will realize that at this time when this ayah was revealed and this incident had happened, Fatima radiallahu anha, sorry, was the only daughter of Rasulullah who was actually still alive. Ruqayya radiallahu anha had passed away in second Hijri, when they were coming back from the Battle of Badr. We know that on the day of Battle of Badr, when they were coming back from Badr, that was the time that Ruqayya, and that the Prophet ﷺ got the news of passing away of Ruqayya, right? So, and Uthman radiallahu anhu had just buried Ruqayya. And the Zainab radiallahu anha had passed away in 8th Hijri, 8th year after Hijrah, and Kulthum radiallahu anha had passed away in 9th Hijrah. So all the other daughters of the Prophet ﷺ had already passed away. So how would he call them? Right? Fatima radiallahu anha was the only daughter alive, right? So he called them. And also some people also say that anfusana refers to like my own, our own selves refers to Ali radiallahu anhu. And they use this to argue that the Prophet ﷺ had appointed Ali as the Khalifa after himself, and this whole controversy after like who that Abu Bakr should not have been the Khalifa after that, Ali should have been the Khalifa. But if we look at it, Ali radiallahu anhu is already was his son-in-law, so he was already included under abna'ana, and our sons, right? And also some people create these fitnas because when authorities and leadership and those become everything in the sight of people, then they become big deal. Like who's going to get the next leadership and who's going to be the leader now and everything. Then when people get caught up in those things, that leads to a lot of fitna. So again, that was a fitna for that time, for these people, for these delegation. That also is a fitna, was a fitna, has been a fitna in different groups of Muslims as well over the period of time. Not just one group, different groups of people in different ways. But this is just one example of that. And then ayah number 62, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, is indeed the true narration, meaning this story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about, all these incidents that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about Maryam, salamun alayha, about Zakaria alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Yahya alayhi salam, Al Imran, the mother of Maryam, all these things that we are learning, these are all 100% truth. There's not a hairline worth of like something extra added to it or something subtracted from it, right? This is the complete truth. And the core of the matter is the purpose of all this truth that you're learning is that la ilaha illallah, that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is the one who has authority, He's the one who has power, He's the one who has the izzat, He's the one who has all hikmat, everything. He owns everything. And the real and true status of Jesus Christ, of Isa alayhi salam, is that he is Allah's prophet. He's Allah's honored prophet and messenger, but he has no share in divinity. Allah alone is the true God, and He is Al Aziz and He is Al Hakim, meaning all the works of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is based on wisdom and his power, and it is there for the benefit of his creation, right? And both these divine attributes of Aziz and Hakim, they refute any kind of or any form of polytheism of the like the of the so there is no concept, there is no, it doesn't make sense to worship anything or anybody else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all prophets, including Isa alayhi salam, came with the same message, that worship no one except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the core of the matter that you should come to. So remind them of that true message, and now you've called them, you've told them about this, right? And the Prophet ﷺ is being told like that. And then he's told that, but if they turn away, you've given the message clearly, you've told them everything, right? And Mubahala was the last and the only way of settling this challenge, right? But if they turn away from that also, which they did, so if they don't accept, and also despite the challenge and despite um, their own, like their own, what they actually believe in came out through this challenge because they did not show up for this challenge and they don't accept this challenge, right? So for them not accepting this challenge, right, and not accepting Islam, despite not accepting this challenge, this clearly means that they know the truth, but they're not willing to follow the truth, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who is the one who does fasad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who does what. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the condition of the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what anybody is doing. And the biggest fasad on this face of the earth is shirk of any kind, right? These delegations who came here to meet the Prophet ﷺ, they were so respected in their, because obviously the message had gone to Najran and they had handpicked these 60 people to come to the Prophet ﷺ. So these were like the highly respected people in their own communities. They had a lot of following. People listened to them so much. So if these people, when they were here, if they had accepted Islam, what would have happened when they went back? Other people would have accepted too, because a lot of people, they don't, a lot of people, and that's the reality of human nature. There are some people who go through a lot of like knowledge and digging and finding and this and that, and there are some people who are very simple people. They don't want much to do with like complicated this and that. They'll just tell you, like some people would say, okay, I want to know the detail of how salah is prayed and what every action means and what I'm doing with every action and what should the feeling be in every action. I want to learn multiple du'as for each action. I want to make my salah this and this and this, and I want to know when it was revealed, and I want to know how salah was revealed. I want to know everything about it, and I want to um, get further and further in my knowledge and everything about it. There'll be some other people who what they will do is and that's just a personality. They would just say, you know what, I'm not bothered about all these things, and that's too much information for me. Just tell me what I have to do, and I'll just do it. Like just I can't handle so much. Like my mind just can't, and that's okay. If somebody is like very simple like that, we just stick to the simple things as well, right? So there were a lot of followers which were very simple people. Like they trusted their leaders, they trusted their religious leaders. So when these religious leaders, when they go back after meeting the prophet, so they were not meeting me or you, they were not meeting any religious person, they were meeting the prophet of Allah in person. They were meeting the prophet of Allah, who had the best message, the best human being, delivered the best message, and obviously delivering in the best way. And yet these people, and they could understand it, yet they did not accept. But if they had accepted and gone back, all of their followers would have accepted too, right? So for them not accepting this was not just a corruption for themselves. It also had other ramifications. It also meant something for their own people, right? So these people who could have accepted and should have accepted and could have got so much good deeds and so much things, they turned away, right? And they were influential role models and everything. So instead of Islah, they chose fasad. They chose, instead of Tawheed, they chose to stay on shirk, right? So those people, those who refuse to accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the one and only God, and they persist, they will stick to their belief in polytheism of any kind, right? They are actually mischief mongers. They are actually mufsideen. They are actually those who are spreading fasad and shirk of any kind. Whether it is the Muslim of today who says, no, you have to go and pray on this grave, and whenever I need something, I'll put a chadar on this grave, and this person who's in the grave is a person very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I please this person, and this person is going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about me. Or whether it is giving the divine status to Isa alayhi salam or anything, or whether it is praying to any angel or a tree or a stone or a idol, or is it's praying to any awliya of Allah, any person who's like you consider that person is religious or that person is pious. There's nothing wrong, and we can and we should respect our scholars. We should love them. We should try to follow them whenever they're teaching us something right and everything. But we never take them to the level of worship that is reserved. That station is reserved for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No prophet, no angel, no human being, no pious person, no tree, stone, heavenly body, star, moon, suns, stars, moon, sun, nothing can be worshipped. Any worship anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shirk. Basically, that's the definition of shirk. And Tawheed is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So these people sticking to polytheism, sticking to shirk, meaning taking any other god other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the cause of spreading fasad. That becomes the root cause of destruction of the system of justice and balance. So the justice, wherever we see the lack of justice, the lack of balance happening, like that's the when people are not worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, when they put other partners, and it could be a partner's their own desire, it could be greed. Like there is enough in the world to feed everybody, but when some people become greedy, that's why some others starve. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this ability to that's a test. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran and other places that some of you are a test for the others. Like the rich person is a test for the poor, and the poor person is a test for the rich. How is that? Because when a rich person sees a poor person, what are they going to do? That's their test. Are they going to help them? Or are they going to turn away from them even though they can help them? Are they going to keep just worried about their own riches? What's a poor person going to do? Is he going to have, when he, a poor person who doesn't have enough, but they see a rich person, are they going to get envious or jealous? Are they going to, you know, like wish bad or upon this person or something and wish for riches for themselves? Or are they going to have sabr? Are they going to try to steal from that person? Or are they going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone? So each one of us, whether it's an employer employee, whether it's a husband and a wife, whether it's a parent and a child, whether it's a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law, whether it is colleagues with each other, whether it's neighbors, whether it's somebody who has knowledge and somebody who doesn't have that much knowledge. So all different variations, whether it's a man and a woman, like the different genders, or different things, whatever we have, like we're all tests from each other. And then when we stick to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when justice and balance is maintained. Because that's when we have guidelines to follow. Like even in war, even in peace, we have charity to give. We have to be, even though I am annoyed by certain things, I have to behave in a certain way towards my husband. My husband has to behave in a certain way towards me, right? We have to, in a family, we have to have certain lines that we don't cross with each other. There are certain things in an employer-employee relationship. An employer is supposed to give money to the employee. It is said, the Prophet ﷺ said that give your people your wages. If you are an employer, give your people your wages before the sweat on their brow dries up. So you have to, so the delay that you're doing in giving the people their money that is due is adding to your sins, right? It's a trial for you, because everybody likes to hold on to money. So if you're not giving people their due, you're adding to your sins. Similarly, for the employee, like when your employer is giving you the money, I can choose to sit and on the computer when they are not around to just play games or chat with my family or everything, or I'm actually doing the work that I'm supposed to do in the time that they're paying me for. So it's both of us are a test for each other, right? And but this balance, how is this justice and balance maintained? Through Tawheed, through worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfect wisdom. He has perfect, he has the perfect system of justice and balance for us. He's the most powerful and he is the most wise. None of us can create laws of balance and justice that will be perfectly balanced other than his law. Because I'm a woman, I'll always be partial to women. A man would always be, even unconsciously, he'll slightly be partial because he will understand a man's perspective more, right? So we will be partial to something. So a system of complete justice and balance will only happen through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when the necessary consequence of rejecting the truth of Tawheed is there will be discord and corruption on the earth. And shirk is therefore the root cause of all corruption and discord. So had there been in more than like in the heavens and the earth, if there was more than one God, then the entire system and the order, we see so much order in the universe. Physically, we see so much order, like the sun and the moon, everything is in perfect order. The amount of oxygen in the air is perfect. The amount of different gases in the air is perfect. The amount of the distance of earth from the sun is perfect. Even like a little here and there and everything would just collapse, right? The amount of gravity that this earth has is perfect. If it was a little more, we would all be like, our faces would fall down on the earth. We wouldn't be able to stand up straight. If it was any less, we would not be able to stand and walk on the earth. We would be like, we would be, struggling like people struggle in the space, right? So if there was more than one God, everybody would want their own way, right? There would not be perfect harmony because there's only one God governing everything. That's what the God of the earth is also the God of the sky. That's why the earth and sky are cooperating with each other. If they had different gods, they would not be cooperating with each other. And the universe would have been shattered if there were more than one God. Similarly, if in religion it were accepted that there are others who share authority with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one true God, then the entire system of justice in this life would be completely destroyed. So the facade begins, and facade is like spreads because of shirk. Like once we bring tawheed, then facade starts to go away. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who stay away from facade and who stay away from facade. And not just we are not those who spread facade, and we are not those who receive facade as well. And we're not impacted by facade as well. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who truly stand up for Tawheed, who truly believe in Tawheed, who truly believe in La ilaha illallah, who truly seek our validation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who truly understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al Aziz. He is the one Al Hakim, and He has brought justice. And wherever we see injustices in the world, that is because the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not being followed. That's when we see injustice. If the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are followed, that's when we will see perfect justice. And there will be a time that the perfect justice will come, and that will be a time when Isa alayhi salam would come back to this earth. May Allah Ta'ala make us, may Allah Ta'ala raise from our coming generations the family members and helpers of Isa alayhi salam when he comes. And may Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who stick to the truth and accept, may Allah Ta'ala accept us as his people. And may Allah Ta'ala never, never, ever make us of those people or to even come near those people who have the lana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala always keep us in His mercy. Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. May Allah ta'ala give mercy to our parents, and Rabbi irham waghfir wa anta khairur rahimin. Ya Allah ta'ala, have mercy on us and forgive us. And you are the one who is the most merciful. Have mercy upon us and never, never, ever take us out of your rahmah. Like this, in this dunya, we need your rahmah. To go to Jannah, we need your rahmah. In our qabr, we need your rahmah. On the day of judgment, we need your rahmah. To stay in Jannah, we need your rahmah. We need your rahmah. We needed your rahmah. We were born in rahmah. We were born in the raham of our mothers. We needed the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to survive, to come to this world. And we need the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while going from this world and for eternity after that. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those that He's pleased with, and He always covers with His rahmah and never takes His rahmah away from us. And just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Islam on the day of judgment when there will be no shade except His. And then once again, in Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah Ta'ala accept our coming together, and for myself and for anybody who listens to this now or in the future, may Allah Ta'ala accept the time and the effort and the like the ikhlas. May Allah Ta'ala give us that ikhlas and that sincerity for Him alone. And may Allah Ta'ala accept any goodness that comes from this talk comes from Him only and Him alone, because He is the owner of all goodness. Any shortcomings are mine. May Allah Ta'ala still accept despite our shortcomings. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم آمين يا أرحم الراحمين سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك 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 ونتوب إليك.